Hey YouTubers, this is Barcode9588 checking in again. I've got some fantastic news. The winter term has just ended, so I've got 2 days of utter freedom until summer school starts. Naturally, what I choose to do with these 48 hours is something completely, utterly, and purely academic. Yeah. But here we go. Perceiving and judging function. If I had a nickel for every message that I've been getting on YouTube telling me to actually hurry my ass up and finish this video, um, I could pay my tuition for the next. I wanted to say year, but this is North America, so let's be realistic here. I could pay my tuition for like the next day. Yeah, that's why I'm broke. But anyway, yeah, perceiving and judging. Disclaimer before I do this video, I've also been getting quite a lot of messages from a few sort of MBTI enthusiasts who've been complaining that I've been simplifying, and I have. I'll totally admit it, and I did tell them this. I said, yes, I am simplifying the Myers-Briggs type indicator here. I hoped it would have been fairly obvious. But the reason I choose to do so is that, well, 95% of you guys, the viewers who are watching this series, quite religiously, mind you, well, 95% of you guys are here for the cool factor. You know, you're interested in the Myers-Briggs to see if you can apply this to your daily life, apply this to your family, your loved ones, your friends, and just because it's kind of cool. And let's face it, this is YouTube, right? This is what we do on YouTube. Um, the 5% of you that are interested in the Myers-Briggs indicator on a maybe a more higher academic level, well, the reality is that most of you will not and should not stop at this video. I mean, I've gotten almost 2 dozen messages from people asking me, you know, for APA references on the Myers-Briggs, book references, and do so. I mean, if you're one of those 5% who are interested in this, you know, send me a private message. I will send you a reading list. But for the other 95% of you guys who are just here for fun, this is what YouTube is for. So here we go, perceiving and judging. So perceiving and judging has historically been the dichotomy that the most people struggle with, and I speak for myself as well. This is the one that I struggle with quite a lot. And the distinction between perceiving and judging is something that people struggle with for, I think, 2 reasons. The first reason that people tend to struggle with this is that compared to the other 3 dichotomies in the Myers-Briggs, the perceiving judging split is not one that is immediately or intuitively obvious to most people, right? So what I mean by that is, if you just grabbed, you know, a random guy off the street and asked him, what do you think is the difference between introversion and extroversion? What do you think, is the difference between thinking and feeling? You know, he might say something like, well, the difference between introversion and extroversion is someone who's outgoing or someone who's shy. The difference between someone who's thinking and feeling is someone who uses their head versus uses their heart. And hopefully, as you've picked up from previous videos, this is not so accurate, but it is certainly close. I mean, it's in the ballpark, right? Whereas if you grab some random bloke off the street and ask him, oh, what's the difference between perceiving and judging? Chances are he probably doesn't really have that solid of an idea that is that really in the ballpark. So that's probably one of the major reasons why people struggle with this. And the second major thing that people struggle with in terms of the P and J distinction is that the PJ dichotomy is one that has the greatest difference between your cognition and your behavior. And I'll get into this later, but this has to do with certainly your information processing models, or basically the mechanism by which you use to both perceive information about the world and to exact judgments on them. So what exactly is the distinction between P and J? Now, as I mentioned before, the purpose of these videos, I really try not to use them as a chance to regurgitate Google, because I think all of you are tech savvy enough, particularly in this generation, to be able to Google perceiving, judging, and read all that, which is fine and dandy. But I mean, how are you going to apply that? How are you going to synthesize that in terms of and relative to all the other functions? So the model that I like to use is something called the pyramid model. This pyramid model is not supported by research. This is just my own synthesis, so please take it with a grain of salt. This is a mental tool that I like to use. So this is not a validated heuristic in any way, shape, or form. So there's my disclaimer. So the pyramid model. So if you take a look at the screen, this is a pyramid model, and it's quite a good summary of what I think to be the difference between P and J. Now, if you take a look at the one on the left is what I call the top-down model. So this is the model that is used by judges. A judger is someone who takes a very deductive approach when it comes to collecting and synthesizing data. So what this means is that they have a tendency to try to find data to support a pre-existing theory. Whereas perceivers on the right-hand side, they take a very bottom-up or inductive approach. So they tend to try to find a theory to fit their data. Okay, so this is sort of a really snap judgment, very easy way to remember. Just remember the pyramid model. Judges go from a theory to the data, whereas perceivers tend to go from data to a theory. A more concrete example of this would be, I don't really do the whole dating thing, but most of you probably do. So for example, let's take the example of, here's John, okay, and John is dating Mary. I'm not a heterosexist in any way. I'm not discriminating against anyone. This is completely an arbitrary example. So John is dating Mary and Mary is dating John. However, Mary thinks that John is cheating on her with her sister, who we shall call Sam. Yeah. I'm not good with this kind of crap. But okay, so Mary thinks John is cheating on her. So what is she gonna do? She's gonna try to find evidence or try to verify this. Well, what would a judger do, right? So remember, a judger is someone who goes from top down, tries to go from a theory to their data, takes a very deductive approach. So if Mary were a judger, what she would try to do is she would make a decision. First, she would say, yes, I think John is cheating on me with my sister Sam. Okay, and then she would try to find evidence to support this. So maybe, she finds a really suspicious, she goes looking for a suspicious text message, or she goes, looking for suspicious times of the day when he's missing, times of the day where he's not somewhere that he says he is, right? So this is a very judger approach. Whereas if Mary was a perceiver, she would, again, going from bottom up, going from a data to trying to find a theory to fit the data, taking a very inductive approach. If Mary was a perceiver, she would say, I want to find out whether he's cheating on me or not. I should go collect as much evidence, check out his entire schedule, check out where he is at all times, check all of his cell phone messages, and then see if I can find anything that can support either hypothesis, right? So trying to find data that can support either point of view, and then finally at the very end, after she's looked at absolutely everything, she'll make a decision. This is a very sort of, I like to think it's a very concrete example, and I think in terms of the PJ distinction, concrete examples are quite useful, the most useful, because it can be quite abstract, right? So hopefully what you glean from that example is, of course, the difference between deductive and inductive logic, right? So just remember, J's go from top down. J's tend to try to find data to support a pre-existing theory, whereas perceivers take a more exploratory approach. Perceivers try to find a theory that will fit their data. All right, so keeping the pyramid